12 a.m. We'll call this work session to order. Um, we did have a agenda here before us that was posted 24 hours in advance. And then presiding is myself, Seth Damon, Speaker of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. So with that, can you hear me?
Yes, Speaker, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry. Sorry for the interruption there again. We did have an invocation that by Honorable Freeland this morning at the State Task Force meeting, so we'll go ahead and take that into consideration. So with that, thank you very much for blessing the day and blessing the rest of the nation as well. So let's go ahead and continue on down to recognizing guests and visiting officials, colleagues. Actually, we need to do a roll call. What am I saying here? Jumping ahead of myself. It's so tough. You can do a roll call and then we can go from there.
Good morning, honorable committee members. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not answer roll call. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. did not answer roll call. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay did not answer roll call. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not answer roll call. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton did not answer roll call. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty.
Naabik'íyáti, Delegate Amber Canasba Crotty is present. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty answered roll call. Honorable Speaker Seth Damon.
Present.
Honorable Speaker Seth Damon is present. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. did not answer roll call. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland did not answer roll call. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Good morning. Delegate Halona is present.
Honorable Pernell Halona answered roll call. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo did not answer roll call. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not answer roll call. Honorable Rick Nez. Honorable Rick Nez. Honorable Rick Nez did not answer roll call. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater did not answer roll call. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. did not answer roll call. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So.
I am present. Thank you.
Honorable Otto So answered. Roll call. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Edison Winika. Honorable Edison Winika is present. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair did not answer. Roll call. Going back up. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay is present.
Honorable Paul Begay answered. Roll call. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Rick Ness. Honorable Rick Ness. Honorable Rick Ness did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair did not answer. Roll call. Speaker, you have 6 members present, including yourself.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you very much for being present with us too as well. Now, let's go ahead and continue on down. As we have 6 members present, item number 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. Colleagues, is there any recognitions this morning? If there are none, I don't have anybody in the queue. Let's go ahead and continue on down. We are having a work session again on our continuous efforts to hear from not only, again, our internal resources, our internal departments, but also our internal enterprises, or actually internal and external enterprises, and then organizations that have been helping the nation, whether they be in the construction field or whether they be with the nation themselves, and also listening to different agencies that depend on the nation for funding and organizations. And we've been having these work sessions on the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 since we started, and we knew that we were going to be receiving some funds. So in identifying that, today we wanted to do a catch-up work session. I know that we did have some more construction companies that would like to present before the Navajo Nation Council in effect to really try to give some recommendations to the Naabik'íyáti committee. I know that we had Western Agency and Northern Agency on the agency day that they were supposed to present, but unfortunately they were not able to. So we'll see if they're back. And then also we had, since the interest, we had more responses to the different shelters that are helping our families around the Navajo Nation in some of the border towns that really wanted to present before the Navajo Nation to Naabik'íyáti committee. I know that we had a huge discussion last Monday on this, and we did get more responses for that. So we'll hear from Alice's Place out of Winslow, Arizona, and then the Navajo United Methodist Center out of Farmington, New Mexico, then Northland Family Help Center out of Flagstaff, Arizona, and then I do believe the City of Flagstaff Council has a presentation that they have too as well, and then Eve's Place Community Services. So these organizations and the City of Flagstaff is wanting to do a presentation before the Naabik'íyáti committee today too as well. So again, colleagues, thank you very much for being here with us. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and start off. I know we had a Bitco wanting to present before Naabik'íyáti committee. So let me go ahead and turn the floor over to them, and then if there's any present recommendations or comments, then we can go ahead and move forward from there. I do have staff standing on by for each one of these areas that have been presented before, and we are still working to get that all this information collectively together. So again, thank you. With that, anybody on from Bitco Construction Company?
Honorable Speaker, this is Jeremiah Bitsui. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Jeremiah.
Good morning, sir. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate the invite. The last time, I apologize, I was unable to make the previous meeting. My father, Edison Bitsui, had passed 4 weeks ago, and so we weren't able to make that last meeting. But I wanted to present today, and I thank NABI committee and council, honorable council for allowing me to present this morning on my company, Bitco. Bitco is a 13-year-old company founded with my late father, Edison Bitsui. And our focus was really to focus on technology and cutting edge resources and seeing how we could benefit folks back home or in general, just rural areas. And the company's motto is building the world into a better space. So we kind of a play on building the world into a better place. We feel that it's our mission to be able to try to help and provide solutions for folks that are in rural communities. And so a few background highlights. We have built in the past the Kayenta Multipurpose Judicial Complex there in Kayenta, the Flowing Water Casino out there in the Four Corners area, and Navajo Arts and Crafts Production Facility, which is right there in St. Michael's. Today's discussion, the focus is really going to be moving ahead. So the presentation, my presentation, which some of you may have seen previously, a dawn, I think that this is a new start, moving ahead, and a lifeline that's been given to us, provided by the federal government, CARES Act. Then now you have this American Rescue money. And so, really looking forward, my discussion today is to be more progressive, positive. I think with any government, you find that there's challenges in getting paid or timelines and working with any government system. And so that won't really be my focus today. I want to look ahead and give you a little taste of what we've been working on during the pandemic and some of the things that have worked. And I have a case study to share as well. So being able to sustain, as we all know, as Navajos, I'm Dene Omaha, Todachitni and Shishi Bushis Chin, Kitsani Dishanale, Hogani Dishache. My late grandfather, Leon Grant, was from Omaha, Nebraska, and my other side of the family is from the Chinle and Forest Lake area. And the sustainability of our people, I think, is knitted in who we are. It's us as Dene. We're survivors, and we know all about sustainability. So when you look at the fabric of our culture, in everything that we do, it's how do we sustain? And as a business, how we sustain is really making smart decisions, keeping our overhead low, and keeping our resources broad and expandable, and always looking for new technology and new efficiencies. So today we'll be talking about physical infrastructure and network infrastructure. And is everyone able to see the screen? Just double checking, making sure.
Yeah, we're able to see it. Jeremiah, my question is, do you have a copy of this for some of my colleagues who might not be able to be on Zoom right now, but are just calling in, so I can send this to them?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We will also send a PDF to everyone and make sure that you have that as well. So
All right.
We'll make
If you
sure
can
we get
send
that
that over to Miss Sherilyn Yazi,
Okay.
and she can send it out.
Okay. That sounds good. And I made some updates, so I'll just export what we currently have here. Okay, so, and you said to send that to Sherilyn?
Yes.
Okay, all right, send that over. Okay, so today, again, focus is going to be network infrastructure and physical infrastructure. Of course, our background has been primarily in building construction projects ground up. We utilize a lot of modular technology, and so that's a big focus for us, is that understanding of physical infrastructure. And so back home, we have a gap in resources in terms of infrastructure, whether if it's water, as we all know, power, and then of course, as we've experienced during the pandemic, the network infrastructure. So disaster was our call for action to change. I think of this as being our call to see what we can do different. The pandemic really exposed the volatility of our infrastructure, which related directly to our work lives, our home lives, and our overall well-being. And so in the physical infrastructure side today, we'll be talking about critical structures, alternative power, and roadway. So as far as critical structures, we have, as far as within our network, a network of 12 factories, 450 modulars ready to ship, which I'm going to discuss some of the options and what we've deployed over the pandemic. And as of our last count, 2,200 beds for shelter-in-place housing. So as we all know, during the pandemic, shelter-in-place housing was key to our essential workers. And so with the thought of infrastructure, critical infrastructure, as many may know, they may know how to build in a city or here in Albuquerque, but you get out at rural development is very unique on its own. And for us as Navajo people, not just the development, but what would it be repurposed as if it's, let's say there's no longer a pandemic. There's no structure on the nation that just has one specific life or focus. Our buildings have multiple lives and they need to be able to be repurposed, which we'll also talk about. And the ability to readily deploy. During the pandemic, we had a very short period for our projects. We had a slate date to be completed as of December 31st, 2020. And so the readiness to deploy was very important. And that's where the network of factories and ready to ship modulars and infrastructures is very important. Essential structures, the ability to deploy within a week. One of our clients had reached out in December and said, we need a building. It has to be, we have to accommodate X amount of workers. I think it was 50 workers, and it has to at a minimum be about 3,500 square foot. Do you have the ability to do this? And the answer was yes, but it's not always yes. Luckily, we were able to deploy within a week, ship ready-made modular structures and get them out to the client and do the setup within that period. So mobile infrastructure, also very important. So the ability to set up and not just get the buildings there, but set them up so that they have water, they have septic or access to plumbing, and of course, power. You'll see our modular offices throughout the nation. I mentioned a few, actually. The building sitting in St. Michael's is a modular building, believe it or not. It's kind of a hybrid. Also, some of our behavioral health buildings, you'll see one in Fort Defiance, which definitely does not look modular, and also a more permanent modular, as well as one in Kaibito. During the pandemic, we had to also think about facilities. What are we going to do with our essential workers? Are they going to cook in their own facilities? Are they going to have feeding schedules and hours? And so we had to come up with dining facility and solutions. Also auxiliary support. So washing machines, and then also ionized AC units that could filter through, heating and AC units that could filter through biomicrobial air particles and make sure that we're not contaminating more people within the complex. And then again, lastly, reprogrammable. So the structures that I'll discuss, some of them are being reprogrammed now after shelter-in-place housing, to give you some ideas for things like battery shelters. So for some of our communities, as we all know, resources are few and far in between. So we have to be able to to reprogram. A few of our turnkey solutions that we had during the pandemic, and we still have, biocontainment units, so negative pressurized units, triage units for healthcare and alternative healthcare, localization of treatment. And this is an important one, is how do you treat your local, the local people? And a big one is drive-through either testing or vaccinations. And we have that within this as well. And we'll show you some examples of that. And another one that wasn't very much discussed was the production of medicine. We actually have a reactor here in New Mexico, along with a joint venture partnership with a company called Bright Path Pharmaceutical. And so we have the ability, we created a prototype to be able to do modular pharmaceutical. So and we can actually create the vaccines, the same vaccines that are being deployed currently. We have the ability to produce locally. Drive-through solutions, drive-up service, which we talked about before. Some of you may have been firsthand through testing facilities or drive-through vaccination facilities, which I myself and my family was. We'd been through the one out in Crown Point, and so you may have seen a few of those before. The warehouse supplies, a big thing was you're getting all of this PPE and supply and food and donation and hand sanitizer. I think I reached out once before to council and I said, I have something crazy like 40,000 gallons of hand sanitizer. What do we do with it? And so then the logistics come into play. How do you do that? How do you transfer those into smaller containers, or where do you keep that supply currently? So we have the ability either through temporary structures or more permanent metal building structures, which we'll also show you. Reprogramming of public space. So now that some of you are getting back to work, social distancing is probably still in place. So thinking about how within your lobbies, how are you going to partition these areas? And we have PVC cleanable partitions, which the COVID virus or the common flu are actually cleanable with these partitions, and you're allowed social distancing. So this is one solution as well that we have within our product array. Updating existing infrastructure. So the ability to go in and reprogram space and basically design and reprogram it so that it could be used. So some of your existing buildings, as mentioned before, you may be going back into that building and it's not just your lobby, but it's your office building. It's how you interact with other clients and other your other folks that are in the same workspace. So the bipolar ionization air filter and HVAC system is very important. We could be able to put these systems within the buildings as needed, all the way up to a 25-ton air handler. And what that does is it allows the air to cycle out, and within an hour, depending on the type of unit, multiple times, and each time cleaning that air and making sure that you have good air treatment. Roadways, you may have seen before, we have rural road stabilization. As you can see in the photograph above, you have a muddy roadway, and then in the middle had been treated, right, I think that was the beginning of the project start, and from then on was treated road stabilization. We have 15,000 miles of dirt road on Navajo. There's no way we'd ever be able to pay for that, even with the current funding that's at hand. It would take maybe over $1 trillion to pave all the roads back home. So we have to look out of the box. What can we do? It becomes a public safety issue. And how do we make our roadways safe and sustainable? So road stabilization is one that's key and important. And again, public safety, some of our public safety officers, they still have to respond on these roadways, pandemic or natural disaster, or pretty much even if it's a cataclysmic winter that they have, they still have to respond. So those are things that have to be taken into consideration as far as road infrastructure. Chip seal is also another solution. So roughly, people always ask cost, and that's how contractors get in trouble, is throwing numbers out there without knowing each individual case or area. So but as a rough estimate, we could say it's about a third of a cost of paving, and you get a solution that's right above the treated road base, and that allows you a good lifespan. Of course, it's not going to be anything comparable to paving in terms of its overall life, but it's another solution that we have as well. Alternative power, you may have seen a lot of power, either solar or gas generator, diesel generators being utilized during the pandemic. Very important. And the redundancy of power off-grid for black and brownouts and hybrid power. So the thought is, okay, let's say it's not a pandemic. Let's say it's just a power outage. How do you deal with these things? And of course, during the pandemic, with those outages, it just makes things that much more dangerous. So thinking about the wind network, power network, the solar generators, having these resources on hand, whether if they're modular or if they're permanent, and the ability to deploy. The next section is, of course, as mentioned, network infrastructure, wireless broadband, cell service expansion, radio frequency. Wireless broadband is one that you've heard a lot about over the last few months. You know, Verizon had provided a few solutions, localized chapter houses, which you know, over time wouldn't be sustainable just because of the gas generation needed to be able to power those units and the overall cost. But you know, you figure we have 27,000 square miles of land. How do we cover that space? So we have some solutions which I'll mention in the end. But wireless is what we figure, building a network that you could be able to utilize it on or off, and with sustainable power. That's a big focus to us. And then the ability to self-power, whether if it's wind or solar, and the ability to set up. This particular unit above could be set up in 7 days. There's bigger units, which I'll mention in the end, but that also can be utilized, take a little bit longer to get up, but have a much broader reach, and that could service the whole nation. Integrated data centers, also another thing. You may have heard the technology, data centers, and how power intensive they were in the past. And now that they're modular, you can scale up and scale down, and the ability to provide that infrastructure not only provides opportunity for private or public, but also private, you know, people within the private sector. You then, if you have a data center network or an area where you have a data center area directly connected to our transmission lines, you then have the ability to bring on other clients, Google, Facebook, and you could scale up or scale down based on those needs. Cell service expansion. This is a big issue, not just during the pandemic, but pretty much all around. And Verizon, T-Mobile, or Cell One, they all go off of the same matrix. They're going to go and they're going to look at, they're going to do their reports, and they're going to find out based on population density and use where they expand their networks to. So we have to be able to provide something that has either a greater network reach, and then thinking about what's the support. You know, you have to have 24/7 support and the ability to be able to service not just multiple units, but broader units. And then also lastly is the mesh self-healing network. So the ability to log in, and if we're the service provider, be able to heal those networks and take care of those networks. That's an important part of network and wireless infrastructure. One thing that's mentioned here is just telemedicine. We have a relationship and MOU with a company called Rejuvenin, and the ability to have telemedicine. So if you're in an area, let's say out where we are back home, out on Forest Lake, and let's say you can't get down to Pinon Hospital right away, the ability to get in via your smartphone and have telemedicine. Of course, this is considering if you have cell service or broadband reach, but this is also an important tool or component, especially during a pandemic. Radio frequency, very important to first responders. There's been cases on the net on Navajo, as we have all heard, where first responders or police have been ambushed in areas where they don't have coverage in the area. So the expansion of digital networks, so the range support and the ability to expand those areas where radio frequency is not currently. And then PSAs for rural. I mentioned smartphones, but your Nali way out in sheep camp, she may not know how to work a smartphone, and nor may she want to. So the ability to have a radio within reach to be able to get PSAs or information out to those areas, and then also range for local air support. And in general, I think just a very important backup communication for anyone living rural. So our case study I'm going to bring up today are working with the Hopi tribe. This particular location that you'll see at the top of the screen is just outside of Hard Rock. And so Highway 4, which goes all the way up towards my neck of the woods, Forest Lake, and then the 8081, I believe, which heads west towards Hard Rock. This is right on that intersection. And we did a whole array of projects. The Hopi Tribal was CARES Act funded. And these tribal projects, we started our first contract on October 1st, and our deadline was December 31st, 2020. We put together 8 modular complexes, which are to serve and still serving as off-work site locations. 3 shelter housing units, so shelter in place for essential workers and first responders. 2 metal buildings for PPE storage, metal building, and another one for emergency auto bay and fleet management. 1 laundry facility, 1 commercial kitchen and dining hall, and off-grid utility infrastructure. So well, generator, septic. This what we call the command complex has the ability to sustain without very much outside interaction, with the exception of diesel. So we created an electrical grid which all feed off of generators, large generators, and then also a well which is also powered off of a generator, and then septic as well. So all the utility infrastructure within this area is off-grid, which is one important factor in what Hopi wanted. In the future, we look at building solar and wind so that the reliance on diesel isn't so heavy. But there's the ability, there are diesel service folks that can come and provide, and that do provide diesel on a weekly or if needed, every other day to supply diesel to this command center. The other is the Hopi Healthcare Complex. We have the IDIQ, and it was also funded by the CARES Act and its inception. And IDIQ is an important tool that you may have heard through some of the other presentations. And this particular service contract allows us, through a government procurement strategy, to be able to be on call. So as of September 29th, 2020, until today, until whenever they end our IDIQ, we're on call. So they could call us and say, hey, we need more negative pressurized tents, which we provided negative pressurized tent adjacent to the healthcare facility. Has 20 beds. It's a 20 by 77. And it's adjacent to also the helipad for those patients who urgently need to get transported out to larger medical centers. drive-through and testing, vaccination sprung structure, which I'll show you what ours look like. You may have seen through some of the other photos. Modular distribution center with solar power systems. So again, we kind of created a mini grid, and then 8 security check-in and guard shacks. So the thought is not only what do you do during a pandemic, you have to have these solutions, but you also have to have these checkpoints where if you're having these locations, you can have guards or people to check in and disseminate where folks need to go. So if they're there just for general treatment, they need to be shifted into one direction. And if they need to go to a more COVID-related treatment, whether if that's testing or vaccination, then they're sent to another checkpoint. And just to show you, this is what we started with. So this was in September, before the project started, before any site development. This is upgrading and reinforcing the well. It was a 20-year-old well, and we had to upgrade the whole thing. Installed office buildings, as mentioned. If you could see, those gray buildings are actually our shelter-in-place housing units. Metal buildings, which I mentioned, for storage, and this one is actually an auto bay, so it's used for fleet management. Guard shacks, as mentioned, for those essential checkpoints. Drive-through infrastructure and testing and vaccination. Negative pressurized medical tents, which I mentioned. It also has the ability to positive pressurize, so meaning you can reverse the flow and you can use this for vaccinations or medicine. So if you're not treating people and you want to be able to use treatments or vaccinations, you could be able to house that type of work within this shelter. And then the medical tent transport fits within this trailer. I believe that's a 35-foot trailer. All the components of the medical tent fit within that trailer, and it's able to go on the road, out to another facility, out to another site, or if it's just the area is being reprogrammed to a better location. Final development at Hopi, areas Tawaovi, and again, it's near Hard Rock. If you drive by, you'll see it. All the building infrastructure, we had to create security protocol. So we have night lights, which you'll see there, high security razor fence. So I joked with them and I said, now you're ready for the zombie apocalypse. If they ever come after you, you have somewhere to go. But in all seriousness, it was a very serious pandemic. We were right there on the front lines working in our communities, making sure that we could provide solutions. And we don't take that lightly. It was a great testament to our company, a great testament to my father's legacy and the company that we started. And we really just, we valued being able to be of service, and we hope to continue to be of service going forward. And so with what's next, I'll just leave with a few ideas and then an invite to a presentation. Incident command centers for key personnel and essential workers. Again, if you see, and which we think is critical, but if you see that as critical, it would be great to be able to have these localized command centers for key personnel, essential workers, or even for our council. Remote emergency service sites to test and treat and vaccinate, as shown at the IHS there in Hopi. Focused infrastructure centric to transmission and coal plants. With this money, I have the ability to really build up a focused infrastructure. So what's the spinoff now that coal is not available? We have been in communication with a company that recently purchased the TriStar facilities. There's 3, and one is just outside of Theru. What can be done with that? What partnerships can be done with that? What commerce can be done? And what opportunity can continue? But more importantly to now, what does that mean for the community? How do we utilize those existing resources to provide power and resource for our people back home? Cyber infrastructure for tech and data centers. As mentioned, we have the ability to provide modular data centers. And with that, the technology, if you have high-speed internet, that means folks from back home, if they want to stay home a semester, or if they want to be able to learn a vocation or participate at a high speed in telework, they don't have to go back to New York or Phoenix. That, as we see, would at least alleviate some of the brain drain. As of right now, you have a lot of folks that they have to be in a city center, they have to be close to an airport. COVID changed everything. We're operating off of Zoom. We don't all have to be in Window Rock today in one central location. We can all beam in from different areas. So there's a huge advantage there. And that's all available, of course, with high-speed wireless internet, which is to my last slide. And this is an invite, and we would invite you to join us. We have a relationship and forming a partnership with a company, Sky, and they're building the world's most advanced high altitude platforms. So they're solar powered, as we mentioned, being able to work off of renewable energy, and the ability to operate at a 60,000 feet in the stratosphere. So this unit is currently being tested, and some of you already may know New Mexico is paying for a pilot test to be able to see how this could benefit rural areas and communities, specifically Native communities such as the Navajo Nation. So as that date gets closer, I'd love to invite you out. Would love to talk further about and discuss some of these options that we deployed during the pandemic and what we can do going forward in the future. And thank you. That's the end of my presentation. Open for any questions, comments, criticism, concern. We're open to anything.
Thank you very much, Spitsui, and thank you very much for coming back and accepting the invitation by the council or by the Naabik'íyáti committee. With that, colleagues, is there any comments or questions at this time?
Speaker, is Helena?
Yes, good morning. Here we see you. Good morning. Good morning, Honorable Helena. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Speaker, and good morning to my colleagues on the line and everybody else on listening in on the call. I just had a few questions on your company. You said how old is your company? And then you mentioned you had 12 locations. And also, how many employees do you guys have total in your company? And then the last thing that I wanted to find out was you mentioned road stabilization. Do you do that kind of repair, or do you just hook somebody up to get that connection made with people who work on this repair road chip seal and stuff like that? Those are the three questions I have right now, Speaker.
Good morning. Thank you.
And thank you, Honorable Helena. With that, colleagues, is there any other comments, questions at this time? If there are none, we'll go back to you, Mr. Bitsui. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. Are you able to hear me by chance? Just want to make sure I'm not.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for your questions. Yeah, we've been in operation for 13 years. We've been incorporated for 16. We're based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, downtown Albuquerque. You're more than welcome to visit at any time. And to answer your question, we scale up depending on the projects and time and what we have going currently. Right now, we're operating at about 15 employees. When we have projects, we scale up to maybe 50 to 100, depending on what the project is, what the project requirements are. And so that's a little bit about our company. We are insured, we are bonded, and we have cash flow to be able to cash flow large projects. Currently, we're working on a project in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and also another project in Jeddah. And so if you come to our presentation, the CEO of the company that we started in Saudi Arabia and the partnership that we are a part of will be at that presentation. And, love to tell you about some of those capacities and capabilities as well. And then I believe your last question was regarding chip seal and road. Yeah, we have the ability to be able to, and I think your question was, do we directly perform the work? To be honest, it's really hard to find contractors, subcontractors that will do smaller projects back home. We do have subcontractors that we work with on a regular basis that we would bring out to do those projects, whether if they're paving, road stabilization, or chip seal. And again, we would bond those projects and we'd oversee from a project management standpoint, being able to oversee the QA and QC of those projects.
Thank you for that, sir.
Thank you.
I think that's all my questions I have, Speaker. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That colleagues, any other comments or questions at this time? If there are none, thank you very much, Mr. Bitsui. I know that there would be some further discussion items that would be entailed in presenting this information not only to the Navajo Nation Naabik'íyáti Committee, but also maybe sitting down with NTUA and sitting down with broadband services or Mr. Christopher Bracenti there at the Office of the President and Vice President too as well on some of these initiatives. So again, if the Speaker's office will follow up, we just thank you for your presentation today, your efforts in working towards getting some of this initial build out, but also thank you for the recommendations too as well. So we appreciate that, and as soon as we get that information over here, we'll send that out to our colleagues. If not, I think it might have been already sent out. So again,
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bitsu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Council, for your time. And any questions, feel free to visit us on our website and send any comments or questions or anything that you might have. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very much. That, colleagues, let's go ahead and continue moving on down. Item number 2 on our agenda is Western Agency Council. Is there anybody on from Western Agency? I don't think we got a presentation. I don't believe we got a presentation from Western Agency, but is there anybody on from Western Agency? Western Agency going twice. Might have to press *6. Western Agency going 3 times. That, continue on down, colleagues. Let's go on to Northern Agency Council. Is there anybody on from Northern Agency Council? We did not receive anything, colleagues, of any kind of presentation from Northern Agency. I don't know if Northern Agency will be on the call, but Is there anybody on from Northern Agency at this time?
Yes, I am.
Good morning.
Good morning. I don't have a visual presentation for you, but I can speak on behalf of what we are doing for Northern
Okay.
Agency.
The floor is yours if you want to present and then introduce yourself and if you have any team members too as well.
Okay.
Again, thank you for being here with us.
Oh, Benedon. Nshihegi Dr. Johnny Cabo Bigay and Shedon and Shlinik Ebit Anin Shlino Tachini Bashishin, Hobani, Dashidon Ashin Dashinale, Adon Shinan Nishiki. Currently, I am the Secretary Treasurer for Shiprock Chapter, and also just recently been elected as the Northern Agency Council President. And just in short, just sharing with you on what we're doing. We covered 20 chapters within Northern Agency, and I know that we have been working with talking and communicating with Eastern Navajo Agency Council and the 5 agency councils. We have been meeting on what we were needing to do with the ARPA funds. And basically, I know that the council has been looking at how we need to expend the funds and so forth, and the chapters have also with the executive branch and the 3 branches. So one of the things is basically, I know that all the chapters are working with their CSCs and also with their designated area, looking at local programs, making sure that we are working in conjunction to make sure that we are meeting the needs and that we are looking at how we need to effectively use the funds and meeting the needs of the community and the people out there. So basically, I know that for the CSCs within Northern have been really collaborating with each other to ensure that that we are making sure that we have those certain things. I know with Division of Community Development, they have asked the chapters to go ahead and input projects into their portal. And for example, with our chapter, we've been working with other departments and the divisions to make sure that the projects that we have are basically project ready, shovel ready, and making sure that the design and so forth, all those things are ready, and making sure that we are working with, like, for example, NTUA, Land Office, NDOT, making sure that these things are done. So basically, to make sure that we expend the funds accordingly and within the timeline that we need to adhere to. So basically, and I think that one of the recommendations is that back in the day, many years ago, I know with Division of Community Development, there was an individual named by Larry Rogers, and I know that he used to compile the needs similar to, I'm sure that Eastern Agency has compiled, I know they are very comprehensive within their agency. That's the next step that we're doing within Northern Agency to do. But my recommendation would be is that the Navajo Nation comes back and continues what Mr. Rogers had already set in place, and making sure the infrastructure, the water lines, the electricity, how many are needed out within each of the chapters within the communities, and that comprehensive plan and the comprehensive planning that we have is readily available at all times, and that it's updated on a timely manner. So that would be one of the recommendations that that we need to continue doing, and I know that hasn't been continued on as I look at it, and I know that a good example was Eastern Agency. They have their comprehensive plan together, and that's one of the things that a couple of us that are looking at addressing with Northern Agency and collaborating with all the chapters and doing a comprehensive plan similar to what Eastern is doing, so that we have it ready for, for you as council, for Navajo Nation president, whoever may need to, request for funding. So again, like I said, those are some of the things that we're looking at. We need to restart and re-emphasize in making sure that we have those data readily available for, for you as you're looking for funding, or either as the chapter is looking for funding, or either the Navajo Nation as a whole is looking for money. So basically, that's kind of what I just wanted to share with you. And again, like I said, they just elected me in just recently, and we're trying to strategize to see, making sure that we have the comprehensive plans, because I know that we really don't have the data on hand to actually just grab and say this is what we need, and this is exactly what we're working on. But each of the chapters within Northern Agency has been addressing and making sure that they do come up with their analysis within their chapters, but bringing that as a whole for each of the agencies and for each of the areas. So that's kind of what we're wanting to do, is to bring that together and then just updating it on a regular basis. So that's in the works as we speak. So that's what I just wanted to share with you guys, and just letting you know. So thank you for having us on the call. And again, like I said, we are working hand in hand with other divisions, other departments, other entities within, to make sure that we have our planning and everything, our documents together, to make sure that our projects are project ready to be able to expend the funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. And thank you very much for being here before the Naabik'íyáti committee. With that, colleagues, let me go ahead and turn the floor over to Naabik'íyáti committee members if there's any comments or questions at this time. If there are none, Ms. Begay, I just want to say thank you again for being here before us. My one question is, or actually recommendation, is if there's anything that you're going to be presenting on behalf of the agency, we would definitely need that information in writing. So I don't know if there's going to be anything directly from Northern, but we appreciate it if that is going to be something coming down. Please send the information back over to Ms. Melinda Siaco, who works at the Speaker's Office with Northern Agency Council, or Ms. Sherilyn Yazzie, Chief of Staff here at the Speaker's Office. So again, thank you very much for presenting, Dr. Begay, before the Naabik'íyáti committee. Have a good day.
Okay, go ahead. We'll go ahead and get that to you from Northern Agency. We'll go ahead and put something together for you in writing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, moving on
Mr.
down.
Speaker,
I know that there was some recommendations to have some of the hello, someone said Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this is Roland Small Canyon from Western Agency Council.
Yes, Mr. Small Canyon.
I apologize. I was trying to unmute and fiddle around with my phone when you needed representation from Western Agency Council.
Okay. Do you have a presentation?
I don't have a presentation, and I just, since my colleagues, they're not available to speak, so I thought I'd just tell you about what we're doing. We're still, if that's okay with you, Mr. President, Speaker.
Yeah. I mean, we delegated, there was recommendations from Naabik'íyáti committee members to give each one of the agencies time and to present before, I guess, whatever you might be working on in regards to receiving some ARPA funds. And then we delegated some time for you all here today. So if you have any presentation or verbal presentation, the floor is yours.
Mhm. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and 24th Council, and people listening in. Say Roland Small came in on Chan Todo Nasha. In the Western Agency Council, I was nominated or elected for vice president. Excuse me. My colleagues, we're still working on our presentation, so I'd like to request for additional time for working on our presentation. We sent out to collect data from all 18 chapters from Western Agency, so we haven't get a real good feedback yet, and that's why we were holding back and try to come up with a comprehensive plan for a good report, Mr. Speaker. And in our area, the main concern is, of course, the water issues, and with the recent reopening of our national parks, they're opening up gradually. So, with the president's new the order to, the approval to reopen parks, Navajo Nation parks, and our stores and hotels are getting back to normal business, gradually opening it back up to. And I know we took a hit in Western Agency with our tourists during our tourism season, but I just want to let you know that we're working on it, and thank you for giving us time to have this report. But I just want to request for additional further down the road for our data collecting from our chapters. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much again for the presentation. So with that, colleagues, is there any questions at this time for Small Canyon representing Western Agency at this time? If there's none, Mr. Small Canyon, as indicated before when I was talking to Dr. Begay representing Northern Agency, if there's any recommendations in writing, we would greatly appreciate that from Western Agency too as well. And if you have that, you can send that over to Mr. Tommy Sosi, who's representing from the Speaker's office, helps assist with Western Agency, or Ms. Sherilyn Yazzie, Chief of Staff here.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I'll contact my colleagues, and we'll do that, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
With that, colleagues, let's go ahead and continue on. Next, I have, again, we were listening to some outside resources that help our Navajo people. And in this case, there was more requests for shelters are services that have a direct uh, approach to working one-on-one with our Navajo people. So at this time, let's go to some of those facilities. First, I have Alice's Place out of Winslow, Arizona. I don't know if anybody's on.
Yes, good morning. This is Teresa Warren. I'm the Executive Director of Alice's Place.
Yes. Thank you very much for being here with us, and thank you very much for accepting the invitation. And at this time, so Warren, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I do appreciate the time given for this. So Alice's Place, we are located in Winslow, border to Navajo Nation. We provide shelter, emergency shelter. It's a 90-day stay with our program. Excuse me. We also provide quite a bit of mobile advocacy. Mobile advocacy, for those who don't know what that is basically taking our services out to individuals who cannot come in to receive them. There's a lot of transportation that is included in that, of course. We travel throughout the entire Navajo Nation area, well beyond that as well. We have a shelter here in Winslow. We also have a shelter located on the Navajo Nation. When the courts are open, so of course the COVID pandemic kind of changed things up for us in the past year, but normally we're out in these areas quite often. We attend court with our clients to help them obtain orders of protection, other lay legal advocacy items. We do a lot of case management. Within case management, we're helping them go through the TANF process, the housing process, things that a person, our focus is domestic violence and sexual assault. And so individuals that are coming to us are usually displaced because of abuse. So the focus that we have, of course, is helping them go to somewhere, whether it's setting up a new household, finding somewhere safe that they can go for a longer term than just our 90-day stay. We do a lot of emotional support, education. We also do outreach. In fact, just today we are working towards setting up an outreach with some youth over at the Bird Springs chapter house. So that's kind of what we do. And I was told that what you were really looking for is what some of our needs might be at this point, which of course is a long list, but some of our bigger needs, motel expenses. Now, we do have 2 shelters, but we don't have space in either shelter to have separate quarantine space. And this made it very difficult for several months until we did receive through Navajo Nation. We're very grateful for CARES Act funding. It does expire September 30, and one of the biggest things this has done for us is allowed us to pay motel expenses for a 5-day quarantine for the family before they come directly into shelter. So for health and safety reasons, that's been very good. So I don't believe after September 30, we are really in a place to stop that right away, especially with this Delta variant that we're all hearing about. I think beyond September 30, we still need to have the ability to quarantine our families before they come into shelter. So that would be one of the ongoing expenses. Within our transportation, and we are receiving another van this year through other funding, VOCA funding specifically. We have a good number of vans for regular road travel, but many of the roads that we go on, especially during the winter time, throughout Navajo Nation, can be sometimes difficult to navigate and get through. So a vehicle that is better built to navigate those kind of roads. That would be something that would be huge for us to get into those areas. Along with that, the expenses that go with transportation, fuel, insurance, maintenance, these items just keep going up, and the funding doesn't seem to match the increase of the need. And then one other area, what we're looking at right now, we're currently working on needing to expand office space. We have 2 offices in a small area that we see both non-residential clients and also new clients first coming into shelter. We do the intake process here, and we're just we've long since run out of room. So we have a specific location that we're working towards, but again, some of the barriers is the funding in order to get in. It's a place that we would need to install AC and heating, and do some painting, some general move-in type items to make it ready, furnished with office furniture. In this space, because of the size of it, our plans are also to create 2 areas to accommodate when we have families with children. We do work often with individuals that come in who don't have children or are not bringing their children in. But when we do, sometimes it's difficult to find a place where we can work with the parent and allow the children to have a private space of their own. So this new place we're moving into, we're going to be creating a children's area, stock it with the little chairs and tables and books, and we have an advocate who would oversee the children while we are working with the parent in what we would call a soft room. So we have another room that's going to be dedicated to creating a very calming space for the individual coming in who is clearly in trauma, in order to sit down and really give her or him a comfortable, safe space to work with us. And outside of that, I learned about this meeting about 30 minutes ago. So I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but working in this, in doing what we're doing every day, I do know what our needs are. And as far as Navajo members, just so you know, and on an annual basis, on average, in shelter, between 70 to 85% of our clients that stay in shelter with us are Navajo. Through the program as a whole, shelter and non-residential as a whole, our Navajo client base is about 65 to 68% on average. So it's by far the largest group of individuals that we are working with. A lot of our services, we gear them, we keep our education. We have our program manager, Tiffany Brooks. She is Navajo, grew up on the Navajo reservation. So she's able to make sure that our services, everything that we do here, are culturally specific and acceptable. So I think we have a great organization here. We've had wonderful feedback from so many individuals that have come through here. So I think that's about it, unless there's any questions. And again, thank you so much for the time to share this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Warren, and thank you very much for your presentation. The one thing I ask is if there's anything specifically, especially on the requests, that we could get that in writing, and because there are a number of different organizations that are wanting to have the assistance, and we would really need that to be presented in order for us to really help assist your organization. So as soon as that information would be available, I greatly appreciate that and sending that information back over to the same contact information as we sent over to the information when we sent our original letter of request for you to come before the council. And that would be back to Ms. Cheryl Yazi, Chief of Staff here at the Speaker's Office.
Thank you. I do appreciate that very much.
Great. With that, colleagues, is at this time, are there any comments or questions for Ms. Warren and her team there at the Aldous Place out of Winslow, Arizona?
Speaker, this is Delegate Crotty with a question.
Oh, yes, Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning.
Thank you. Yes, morning. Thank you for the report. If I could, you indicated that there's a shelter on the Navajo Nation. Could you
Yes.
provide a little bit more information about the location and how many victim advocates are you currently employed, and in your estimation, what would be the amount of advocates that you would need to meet the current needs? Thank you.
Thank you very much. As far as location, we do not disclose location of shelter for safety reasons. So I do apologize for that. The current place that we have on Navajo Nation is an apartment, actually, and it can accommodate up to 8 individuals. We have currently 6 advocates and 1 case manager that go back and forth between the 2 locations. We're not looking to expand beds at this time because part of that is the need for more advocates, and that's not always an easy thing to do. But as we're growing, the program at one point had no shelter at all. Then we had just the one in Winslow. We expanded the one into Navajo Nation. We have grown the program, and that is our plan to keep going. Right now, having the motel space is very important for us because it is something that is movable. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's more flexible, I should say, than set bed spaces. I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
Madam Chair, Member Crotty, we'll go back to you.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. I look forward to reading your written summary or proposal, and in terms of the vehicles that can meet the needs so that we can support our survivors. Is there any collaboration with the shelter and your resources with Winslow Indian Clinic or their behavioral health programs to provide wraparound service?
Yes, we actually have a formal memorandum of understanding with the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. We do work with them. We do referrals out for behavioral health, for medical services. I noticed that Eve's Place is also on the agenda. We work with them quite often to do relay travels. They have an attorney on their staff that is able to work directly with Navajo clients. And so we do utilize that. We have a very good operating partnership with TANF, Self-Reliance. In fact, prior to COVID, because they don't travel right now, we give them office space to meet with clients that live in this particular area, as well as our own clients that are with us, but for the community as a whole. We also have a good relationship with Navajo Housing Authority and a letter of support from them. So we do have some really good partners that we work with.
Thank you very much for that information, Ms. Warren. With that, colleagues, any other comments, questions for Alice, please? If there are not, thank you again, Ms. Warren, for presenting before the Naabik'íyáti committee. Again, as a follow-up, just as soon as that information could be delivered to the speaker's office, we can send that information out to the members too, as well, that written proposal. So we appreciate you coming before a Naabik'íyáti committee to hear today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate everyone's time.
Great. With that, let me go ahead and go on down to Navajo United Methodist Center out of Farmington, New Mexico. Is there anybody on from NUMC? Navajo United Methodist Center. You might have to press *6. Going twice. Going 3 times. Let me go on back to the agenda. Let me look on towards item number 6 on our agenda. Northland Family Help Center out of Flagstaff, Arizona.
Hi, good morning. This is Shalene Seward. I'm the Executive Director at Northland Family Help Center. We appreciate being able to share about our program and our needs today. Northland Family Help Center provides services to victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault. We're located in Flagstaff, Arizona, but we serve clients throughout northern Arizona, and we do partner with Alice's Place and Eve's Place. Many of our programs are similar to meet the high demand that sometimes is unmet due to services being limited in small programs, and sometimes programs being far apart from each other. So we're grateful for those partnerships, and much of what was shared from Alice's Place is similar to our program at Northland. So we do provide shelter to adults and families. We have a 24-hour emergency shelter with 24 beds, and people can stay up to 120 days. The shelter remained open throughout this last year, and we continue to see the request for shelter remained very consistent. We receive around 300 phone calls a month for support and services via our crisis line. And one of the needs that is identified within our program is just consistent funding for shelter services. We are seeing funding fluctuate from varying levels, and we're also seeing the rate of domestic violence increase. And last year in our shelter, we actually saw twice as many victims of human trafficking than prior years. So we're also seeing people being educated on human trafficking and identifying themselves as being a victim and seeking support for that. So consistent funding for shelter services is very important as we are seeing the increased rates of violence, especially as the pandemic limited people's access to resources and support systems. But we also operate a youth shelter, and our youth shelters for unaccompanied youth that need safe housing. And through that program, we do a lot of prevention and intervention work with the youth to help with family reunification and case management for youth to be successful as they work through what often most of them have is trauma. And so through prevention efforts, we operate a mindfulness-based substance abuse treatment program. That's an evidence-based program using mindfulness techniques to help youth prevent use of substances, but also if they have engaged in substance use, be able to identify triggers and monitor themselves, and also work on stress regulation and trigger coping skills. And then we provide therapeutic support to the youth as well. And in our shelter programs, usually between 40 to 50% of our clients are Navajo. And so we are, you know, a border town right outside, and are definitely connected in providing many services and supports to victims of all demographic backgrounds. Both of our programs are open to all genders as well. Lastly, I just wanted to touch on our counseling services. This is probably an area we most identified needing some more resources and support around during the pandemic. We switched over to telehealth counseling, and we are now returning to in-person counseling, but we have recognized the need that we're the only agency providing no-cost trauma counseling on an ongoing basis to victims of crime in Northern Arizona. And we have 5.5 paid counselors, and we frequently operate a wait list. And telehealth counseling, we're focused on trying to expand that and have more counselors be able to reach people virtually who may not be able to come to Flagstaff for free in-person trauma counseling. And we need resources to be able to really build this program and be able to reach out to victims throughout the Navajo Nation and Northern Arizona who currently are not able to access counseling services due to the limitations of this resource. So I very much appreciate being able to share about our program today and what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stewart, for that. I don't believe, again, as indicated when I was talking to Ms. Warren earlier from Alice Place, as soon as you get this information in writing, we would greatly appreciate that, because that's something we need to do in order for the proposals to go forward. And I know that there's huge advocacy for shelters and wanting to help assist them along the way. So that would be grateful if you could get that information to us as soon as possible.
Yes, we will.
So with that, okay. With that, colleagues, is there any comments or questions at this time from Ms. Stewart, representing Northland Family Help Center there in Flagstaff, Arizona?
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Crotty for the question.
Yes, Madam Chair, floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. I appreciate your presentation and providing the trauma-informed counseling. I would want to know, can you help me understand the structure or partnership with Victim Services of Coconino County, and also looking at how many victim advocates you currently have, and is there plans or the need to expand victim services? And if you could let me know, and I should have asked this with Alice's Places, the type of partnership with Navajo Nation law enforcement when it comes to the reporting and the follow-ups from the court with the protection order. The last question is, there's legislation that was dropped in establishing how this ARPA funding will be distributed. As a nonprofit, it looks like the recommendation is your financial agent or financial sponsor would be possibly the Division of Social Services. Can you give me some insight in terms of if there's any benefits or if there's any challenges when it comes to receiving funding from the Navajo Nation Department of Social Services? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. that, colleagues, is there any other comments or questions for Ms. Seward at this time? If not, let me go over to Ms. Seward for a response.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I took notes down, so hopefully I touched on all of that. Victim Witness Services is one of our partner agencies. So we provide emergency shelter in the area, and that Victim Witness Services provides the crisis in person, in the moment, after the moment crisis response. So we're a part of a referral network where they respond to victims usually immediately after an incident has occurred, and we are a resource to refer those victims for that that sort of the care afterwards, the counseling, legal advocacy, shelter support. So we do work closely. We provide legal advocacy within our agency. We do civil legal advocacy, and the victim witness provides criminal legal advocacy. So again, we collaborate in supporting victims through the different court systems. And within the region, there are several programs where we all sort of fill a certain area to meet the needs, including Jaron Manor is another program that does transitional housing for domestic violence victims. So we do work closely with victim witness advocates. As far as expanding, our focus has again been on expanding the counseling department. We have shelter beds available. We are not currently looking to expand the shelter spaces, but what we recognize is if you can help treat trauma and provide a therapeutic response, you may reduce the need for shelter beds as people are able to process and heal and create a safety plan for themselves, et cetera. So as far as expansions of services, again, trauma counseling for victims in a wider area outside of Flagstaff is our focus. As far as law enforcement with Navajo Nation, we largely, again, partner with victim witness for the areas of order of protections or providing services to individuals who are still living on the Navajo Nation, because they do have a mobile advocate that assists. They used to be based out of Tuba City. So largely we use our partners. Same with Alice's Place. We have a relationship and connection with them if we have questions, et cetera, about assisting people throughout the region. So as far as funding, with the Division of Social Services, we have received funding for our shelter spaces for the past several years. I don't have the exact time of when it started, but and that's my fault. My computer is at home, or I'm at home, so I don't have access to that. Our relationship with the Department of Social Services, particularly this last year, has been very positive. There's been much communication. Contracts have been clearly established, and they have been very communicative and responsive. So we have greatly benefited. It does. The Division of Social Services helps fund our domestic violence shelter, and is a very important partner for us to sustain our shelter beds at the number they are at. Without that support, we likely would not have 24 beds available to meet the needs that are actually more than what we can. 24 beds is a small amount compared to some other programs, and they are consistently full. And so I think that ties back to the trauma counseling as well. If we can get counseling and healing and therapeutic support for individuals, we may be able to have an impact on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Seward. That, colleagues, is there any other comments or questions at this time for Ms. Seward and her team members there at Northland Family Help Center in Flagstaff, Arizona? There's not. Thank you very much, Ms. Seward. Again, appreciate accepting the invitation to present before Naabik'íyáti committee. And then most importantly, we appreciate the presentation on behalf of your advocacy and your continuous work there, working with on not only our families, but just everyone in person during the pandemic and then afterwards as well, continuing to work to help assist families that are in need. And again, if we could get that information for a possible proposal as soon as possible, that would be grateful in order for us to go ahead and help assist to move things forward too as well. So again, we appreciate you and your team, and thank you very much for being here and presenting before us here today.
Yes, thank you.
All right. With that, colleagues, let's go ahead and continue on down. I do have the City of Flagstaff City Council. I do believe that there was a presentation that was sent out. What time was that sent out? Oh, what time? At 10:22 a.m. By Ms. Cook. With that, colleagues, is there any comments, or actually, let me go over to the City of Flagstaff, the City Council, if there is anyone there representing the City of Flagstaff at this time?
Oh, yeah, this morning, we are here. My name is Rose Tohi.
Good morning.
Oh, yeah, it's still morning over here. It's over there. Lang Honorable Speaker Seth Damon. According to our clan system. I don't know Shanand I don't know Lini Kone if you have Jackie or Konza Holchishigi the Navajo Nation delegates, the honorable leadership that we have here within the Naabik'íyáti committee. I also want to say pay special honor to the land we are on and our sacred mountains as well. For what we have and grateful for what we have. Yahai Tachini not Dain Shnido Kilachini Bashishchin. Zoe da Chanel do Shin as a che at I has done it the next done and Shle. I don't call a Yahai do he had Shnido lay for the person who delivered the prayer this morning to cover the meetings today. Deep in the big Yahai, we're going to be presenting. My name again is Rose Tohi, and I'm the coordinator for Indigenous initiatives within the City of Flagstaff, the City Manager's Office. Today I have with me Mayor Paul Deasy, Mayor of Flagstaff, as well as Shannon Anderson. She's the Deputy City Manager. We will be presenting on several things today, so I want to go ahead and hand that off, and also want to just let you know that based on time, we might be needing a little bit more time beyond the 20 minutes. I just want to just say that at the beginning. All right, so I'll hand it off to Mayor Deasy.
Hello, oh, Yate, thank you very much for being here with us.
For the opportunity to speak today, Honorable Speaker Damon and the Naabik'íyáti committee. And my apologies for my lousy pronunciation. Do we have the PowerPoint available, Ms. Tohi, or the ability to put this up on the Zoom?
Yes, you have the full capabilities to share your screen.
All right.
I had, excuse me, I'm sorry. I had sent it over to get the IT to show it for us, but if we can, we have Shannon who can also share as well.
Okay.
Deputy City Manager, are you able to share the screen on that, please?
Yes, Mayor DC, I'm pulling it up for you now.
Thank you.
Great. Although bringing that up, thank you very much again, Mr. Is it DC?
DZ.
DZ. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mayor, for being here with us, and thank you very much for being part of this presentation to the Naabik'íyáti Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. We appreciate that the effort and the collaboration. So again, thank you for accepting the invitation, Mayor DZ, for being here with us.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Paul Deasy, Mayor of Flagstaff, and I first wanted to kind of inform you of all what Flagstaff is doing to better serve our Indigenous community, particularly around criminal justice and offering social services, and discuss potential collaborations moving forward. Our vision for Flagstaff is to be the example for how to be a responsible border town, how to be a good neighbor, and how to best serve our greater community. I was elected in 2020, and the city has been working diligently to develop an alternate response system to our justice system here in Flagstaff that I will get into in a little bit more detail. But the purpose is was to provide a culturally compassionate approach to issues we face in our community, to engage those in need with the most appropriate service that is not the traditional judicial route, to keep individuals safe, provide them opportunity for healing, and to figure out ways that they do not need to enter the criminal justice system, enter the jail, or to send them to the emergency room, but to provide a better quality of care. Just some of the little bit of the background of the facts here in Flagstaff is that over 50% of the arrests that occur in Flag are primarily Dene and other Native American, and over the half of the population in the county jail are Native American. And much of those arrests are not criminal in nature. There's no reason for our police to be responding or dealing with these calls to 911. And no reason for an individual to be jailed, simply because they're unable to afford a home, those who may be suffering from mental illness, who may have substance abuse issues. Well, that needs to be addressed through empathy and provide opportunity for healing, and not to add additional punishment amongst what people have to face unto themselves. So we want to discuss kind of the larger picture, how we want to approach the situation now and moving forward, what we've already done to work on providing these wraparound services that we need in our community and in our greater community, including the alternate response, housing, and the community cultural center we're aiming for here in our community. The idea behind the alternate response model and the benefits is to provide that better public safety response where the experts go to deal with the situation, to reduce the number of pedestrian fatalities involving substance and man down calls, reduce number of exposure deaths, which we have a handful every single year from people who simply just can't afford to have a home and are subject to the elements. To provide appropriate housing and wraparound services and support both alcohol and behavioral health related calls to the police. Our estimate is up to 20% of all of our 911 calls can have the potential to be diverted towards this alternate response model where police do not need to be involved. Next slide, please. Oh, well, we'll get to the rare assessment in a sec here. I just wanted to mention that the city just last month, City Council unanimously voted to fully fund a crisis response team where 911 calls will be diverted to response team consisting of a medic and a social work professional in a van rather than having the police involved. The call system to be able to divert these calls, the technology was established last December. And the response team has now been approved for $1 million in startup costs and continued funding from the city to see happen. I guess we will get, yes, here is basically the breakdown of what the city of Flagstaff is already fully funded and is pursuing, but is only the first step in our vision of what we want to do to help our greater community. And apologies, if we could go back one slide now, and I can mention the rare assessment. Jumped a little ahead of the game here. So to do so, though, we recognize that this isn't some top-down decision making, but rather we need to be able to include the needs and the voice of those who we intend to serve. It's not going to exactly work to provide these additional services if the people won't feel comfortable or won't need the type of services that we're going to be laying out. So with partnership with NACA, we are implementing an alternate response model for a rare assessment for it, where we will look and observe what's going on, get interviews, do surveys, et cetera, and really talk to the people who may be accessing these services in the near future. It's best to be informed as we do this and create an action plan moving forward. And it does provide us opportunities to implement strategies and to model this the best way possible. So, and the cost of the assessment is $48,526. We've funded $20,000 for by the city of Flagstaff, donations of $85,26, and unfortunately the grant that for the $20,000 that was applied for this purpose didn't pan out in the first round. So we're trying to complete that funding to be able to really analyze this. And you can see that part of the aspect of what how we're going to be doing that. And if it is okay, Honorable Speaker, if Deputy City Manager Shannon Anderson or Ms. Tohi, if you have anything to add on this aspect, if it's okay, Speaker, if they would have the opportunity to maybe.
Yes, Mayor, this is your time. You can have anyone along with you and your team members.
Thank you, sir. Did we have anything to add on the rare assessment, Ms. Anderson and Ms. Tohi?
Thank you, Mayor DC. I think an important piece of this is the fact that NACA will be working with community members. They'll receive training from Dr. Vasquez. So that way we're using individuals to go and speak to others in our community to understand fully what the needs are, and what would make them most comfortable in seeking services. And so we're hopeful that using community members will really help folks feel comfortable and willing to share.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager.
This is Rose. The only thing I wanted to share was that NACA stands for Native Americans for Community Action, and they are the local Indian Flagstaff. So the people who are going to be reaching out to relatives in this situation where we need to do a good assessment going forward and making sure that the programs that are laid out are also involving their voices and not just planning things that don't have their voice in this. So our community members who are unsheltered will be very much involved in providing this assessment going forward, and making sure that people who look like them and who speak their language will be out asking these questions. So that's the thought behind that, and the city backs that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Toy, and thank you, Ms. Anderson, for that addition. With that, if we wanted to go on to the care center, so part of this equation that we have are seeking assistance for and trying to implement, and will be presenting to council in September when we decide our own ARPA funds and how we're going to move forward. Just to mention, the crisis response team, the alternate response team, is fully funded out of our normal budget. That is not coming out of our ARPA funds, and is dedicated as continuing budget. The part of this, though, is that we need a place to take folks to help them, so that it's not just replacing one Band-Aid for another that then ends up in jail, in the emergency room, etc., but a place for them to go to gather that's available to them, that provides food service, that's also very much more culturally associated and traditional foods, as opposed to more peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, shower washrooms, and kind of a triage service for what services they may need in the community that we can refer them to. And as you can see, this is going to include multiple individuals, but again, with the idea of really centering this around the population we intend to serve, to expand this to additionally, medicine people, others that may be involved that can provide the care that the Western model does not lead to as successful of healing process as a more traditional and culturally compassionate method. Next slide, please. So what we're looking to do is to, for 5 years, provide a day center where these services can be available to these individuals, a place where when they're facing homelessness and are unsheltered, if they're facing mental health crises, that they have somewhere to go, or just even somewhere to, spend time with another individual, and just a day center to convene. The cost of this is $800,000, with $300,000 for personnel and services, and $500,000 for the facility. Now, this is going to be a large portion of our discussion regarding ARPA funds and the commitment, of the City Council, with the unanimous vote and large support for the alternate response model and the crisis response team that we've already funded. This is an essential part of it, and I am confident that the remaining council, when we make this decision, will be very willing to spend a large amount of our funds for the ARPA towards this purpose, or through, we are also in discussions about doing a general obligation bond for the voters next year. There's billable services we can utilize through Medicaid, et cetera. And we're really looking at all funding sources to see this happen. But the city of Flagstaff unto itself is unable to provide this 100% itself. Next slide, please. So the step up, the larger vision from there, the care center unto itself is really an essential part of this whole alternate response that we're establishing in the city. But we always want to look to what more can we do? How can we help even more? And another piece of this puzzle is the need for detox services and more advanced medical and behavioral health specialist care, social work care with the care center. So this would be basically what we had with the day center, but also provide these other services that are on the list. We're doing this, we'll let you know, as a very inclusive manner with our nonprofits here in our community. We're speaking with the County Board of Supervisors about this, with their ARPA and otherwise long-term assistance. I've already been speaking, for example, with the Carpenters Union and Steelworkers Union about job training possibilities as people get into kind of the halfway house or other methods once they come to the more the last mile of healing. But this is kind of again, the next step above of rather than just what we need to get this alternate response that we've already have a lot of costs going, but also to really provide all the wraparound services that we see that is needed. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, again, we have these are the type of individuals that would be involved and supported to assist our community in need. Next slide, please. Now, this is obviously a lot more of a project and something that we recognize isn't going to be happening tomorrow, but this is our vision of where we want to move. So as you can see, this is a lot more expensive at $6 million a year with those costs associated. We are looking into, again, the general obligation bonds and so forth to potentially purchase a facility to be able to have this ongoing. And again, as you could see, similar city funding opportunities that we are pursuing at all angles to be able to fund this and make happen. Next slide, please. Now, another piece of this is housing. To get the full wraparound services, the City of Flagstaff right now has been doing a lot of work to put together a housing bond that is looking to total about $30 million to put on the ballot next year. Now, we'll also include as part of it rapid rehousing. Again, we're trying to put our money where the mouth is, and we are pursuing every funds possible to fulfill this vision of ours. So the rapid rehousing, we do have, for example, a facility here in Flagstaff that a nonprofit is in charge of. That's a collaboration and support from the county, city, and Flagstaff Medical Center, where it's 6 individuals, 6 bedrooms where individuals can, have a place to stay that's not as restrictive as, for example, our shelter in terms of what, behaviors or anything else, and a kitchen where they can cook and have a little bit more of more autonomy. So we're looking at both the rapid rehousing aspect, and also permanent supportive housing, which is needed ongoing. That doesn't end ever. So next slide, please. So we are looking into the short and long-term housing needs for the general community. We're identifying nonprofit partners and county partners and financial partners into this. And then we are looking into options for either land acquisition or potentially with some of the other government agencies, et cetera, that may have land available to do low-cost leases, et cetera, that we can then redevelop or start a construction on to provide this housing, which is estimated at about $10 million. Next slide, please. And with this, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Tohi here to discuss the Indigenous Community Cultural Center that we are looking to pursue here with the Indigenous Circle of Flagstaff to see into fruition. So Rose, if you wanted to take the reins here.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. And again, thank you again, Speaker Damon. This piece, I also want to just comment a little bit on the housing. I think what is really important to know here is that the Flagstaff City Council has had declared also a housing emergency back in 2020. And so this is the reason why Council is moving very diligently and very focused on what they'd like to see in housing, not just for our unsheltered relatives who need that kind of the gaps that are missing right now in the services that are being provided, that those are some things that we'd like to fill with some of these housing needs with the alternative response. But also some of our people who are out here because of land, because of work, or because of education or medical reasons, they are also want to live here, but they need that affordable housing. And so Flagstaff has been very much wanting to make sure that we are listening to those needs, and on top of that, listening to those needs that are within our community, in the Indigenous community, and especially here in Flagstaff, where a high percentage of the Indigenous members are Dene people. As far as what we are doing, and one of the things that we wanted to share also is that and as far as housing, the housing situation is that last year during CARES funding, Native American Connections had written a proposal for a study to be done regarding all those gaps that needed to happen, all those gaps that needed to be addressed, and getting all the partners together and just seeing how we can address that. So, and as you may know, Native American Connections is out of Phoenix, and they have a huge, probably, I think they said 40 years of experience in identifying partners and identifying how to solve those problems for unsheltered individuals who do go through counseling for substance abuse use. So those are the kinds of people we like to engage. And so we're bringing that back as part of this piece, and having that study done, and bringing that planning study, those planning dollars that are related to housing in this piece. Okay, we can go now to the next one. Yeah. So what I wanted to just share here is the fact that we back in 2016 and 2017, our Indigenous community members, in partnership with the City of Flagstaff, with their full support, provided 6 community forums throughout, I think, about 7 or 8 month span. And during that time, we learned about some things that our Indigenous, our relatives here really want. And in all of those 6 forums, one of the most requested was to have a community cultural center that is dedicated to cultural preservation, to teach, to educate the youth and get educating from our elders, and just preserving that kind of learning and teaching, the language preservation, cultural teachings. And this is connection also to that holistic healing through strengthening the identity and the foundation of our people, which also ties back into providing those services for our Indigenous population, our unsheltered relatives, our Dene relatives, to have this space also for those kinds of foundation, to solidify their foundations again, and reaching out to medicine people to provide healing and songs and prayers for people who need them. So this is all happening. There are things that are really moving. There are still processes that we need to go through, but these are some of the things that the City Council has committed to in helping us. And we can't do it alone, and that's why we're coming to you as our Dene leaders, our leadership, and that these are some things we're hopeful that will be on your radar and on your list of priorities for our people who live out here in the urban areas. And again, this is not done solo-wise in silos. We are doing everything we can to do our collaboration with our local agencies as well as our neighboring other Indigenous nations in the area. Next, please. So we have potentially a location that's on city property, and the city is working with us in moving through this process. Of course, with all city buildings, if it's going to be dedicated to a certain group, it has to go through public participation. But we feel like we have a really strong presence and a strong voice to get this this piece of property. So we've already looked at the administrative structure and how that's going to be developed, and with the guidance of the Flagstaff, City of Flagstaff, as well as our local nonprofits. And then to just clarify more, the commitment from city and the city council, as well as city leadership, is to just let you know that they've made certain commitments which you don't see in border towns. And these are some things like we recently have gathered people who are knowledgeable about our community and made a city Indigenous commission that will advise city council on certain issues that are related to our people. And then as far as my position is concerned, they've committed to that. They've made it a permanent full-time position from the city to be a permanent position and not a temporary one. So these are some things that the city has committed to, and I'm really hopeful and appreciative of that our voices have been heard in this community. So just an idea of an estimated of the refurbishment of this building, or if it's another building, what it will cost to bring it to the I guess to safe and workable type facility for the needs that we have. And then also, I wanted to also give that back to, Mayor, as he wants to talk about more of the other opportunities related to this type of facility.
Thank you, Ms. Tohi. Yes, I just wanted to kind of tell you what our internal discussions have been around this, and that, so our city, especially with our city manager, myself and the members of council, are attending with our cultural centers, community centers, and the arts centers in our town to give a complete property tax break to allow to use the land for $1 a month lease, long-term leases, 30, 50 years, commitments that we would take care of all city utilities associated with the facility, and that if there was any maintenance costs that may occur for the building over a certain threshold, such as $4,000 or $5,000, that the city would take care of it as kind of an insurance policy on making sure this can follow into perpetuity. So I just wanted to kind of chime in and mention that we're committed to this, and that is a big part of our role into seeing the Community Cultural Center be able to be developed in our part in that process of what we're discussing. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, next, Shannon. Ado, thank you for your time, and I know you all have a lot on your plate, and thank you so much for listening to us. As you will also know, that many of these things that we talked about, they focus on family, they also focus on learning about who we are and strengthening our Dene people. And also uh, the things that we highlighted and focused on are things what we can that are allowable expenses for our priorities of the Navajo Nation government. And do you have any questions? I'll turn it back over to you, Speaker Damon.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your team, Mayor, and thank you for, I guess it says right there, Team Flagstaff, we make the city better. Your motto there, right there on your presentation. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to present before the Naabik'íyáti committee. So with that, colleagues, let me go ahead and forward this the floor over to members of the Navajo Nation Naabik'íyáti committee. If there's any comments or questions for the mayor and his team at this time. Colleagues, anyone? With that, if there's no comments or questions, I just want to say thank you very much, Mr. Deasy, and thank you very much for your presentation. And more importantly, thank you very much for taking up the recognition of coming before the Naabik'íyáti committee. I really want to say that with collaboration work and looking through the proposal here, there's possibilities for us to really try to get some avenues done and really try to enhance some of the public safety for our community members, but most importantly, the public service that your city does, and enhance that with some of the options that the nation has with some of the opportunities, whether that be some appropriations from our general funds or that be some ARPA funds or some longevity grants we can work together on to get from the federal government. I think that's something that would be advertational in order for us to move forward on. So I greatly appreciate that, and thank you for your time, Mayor, for presenting before us here today. And thank you. I know that we'll probably have follow-up questions, at least from the speaker's office. So I will make sure that we contact your office again, no longer than 30 days, in order for us to make sure that we have everything in place for that proposal. But Mayor, I think you wanted to say something.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to mention that amidst these proposals and grounds where we can collaborate, the most important thing for us as the city and biggest priority really is this day center. It is the key to us being able to have this alternate response to, and that council did this unanimously, but I've said this to Ms. Tohi many a times. My number one priority is to, as mayor, is to see this alternate response model be a success and to be a model for other cities on how we deal with these situations. So as we move forward, and I'm very much so thankful for being able to present today. I'm very grateful to you and to the committee, that I'm looking forward to our future conversations regarding this or other realms of collaboration that you may suggest, or anyone else. We have a lot of grounds to work on and honestly make up for in a lot of ways. So.
Okay, great. Thank you very much again, Mayor. Thank you very much, Ms. Tohi, for your collaboration, your work together too as well. And Ms. Anderson, thank you very much for being here before us. So we appreciate that. Thank you again, Mayor. We're going to With that, let's go on down, colleagues. Last item on our agenda is Eve's Place Community Services. Did we receive a presentation from?
Yes, we sent it out.
At what time? I think we did get a present at 11:57 this midday, colleagues. There was a presentation sent out on behalf of Eve's Place Community Services. So with that, anybody from Eve's Place, are you on the line?
Yes, Speaker Damon, I'm Laura Horsley, the Executive Director and CEO of Eve's Place. I also have with me Rebecca Benally, who is the coordinator of our Navajo Nation program. And so we certainly want to thank you for your time and consideration, and also thank the delegates and community members for allowing us a few moments of your time today. I'm going to actually let Rebecca talk to you about the program specific information. She is the expert at the services that we provide there. And then I'll finish up the conversation there. So with that, Rebecca.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yat Eshe Rebecca Benali and Chia, Bink Batcodi Nishle, Hushgon Zaha Bashichin, Dua Tabajna Ajadashiche. I hear Honorable Speaker Damon and all of the committee members for allowing us to speak today. So I believe our presentation did go out, but I would like to see if I can share my screen.
Yeah, yes, you should be able to.
Okay.
Ms. Benali. There it goes.
There it is. Okay. So just a little bit, what I wanted to share with you all is some information about our program. And so Eve's Place, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and that started in April of 2004. The mobile advocacy program started in October of 2013. So what had happened was it expanded from there, and in 2016 is when it expanded to cover the Navajo Nation, and that's when I started. So Eve's Place, we provide confidential services, and they are free services to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and teen dating abuse. And the mobile advocacy program is available for any of the clients that are participating in the services. So what our mobile advocacy program consists of is providing better consistency for the children. So the clients are able to, what we were doing was going out, the advocates would go out into the community and meet our clients where they're at. So mobile advocacy really does help those that maybe are not needing shelter, but still needing the services. So we were able to go out and see our clients where they're at and connect the victims or survivors to local resources in their community. We provide that individual advocacy and support one-on-one with our clients. So we were also providing support groups, and before COVID, we were meeting our clients. We would go pick them up and then transport them to the office, and we would have our support groups, and then we would transport them back. That also was something we were doing for like court support or relocations to shelters, or if they just needed to apply for housing or TANF, we would go out and transport them to those agencies. So we were able to give them choices in the location of where they wanted to meet. So we weren't having them, telling them that they would have to just come to Kayenta if they want to receive our services. We were the ones going out there to provide services to them. And so part of our mobile advocacy program, our main office is located in Sun City, Arizona, and we do have advocates there that cover all of Maricopa County. And we also have also the advocates cover Southern La Paz County. We also have a sub office in Quartzsite, Arizona. And then here in Kansas, so we cover the Navajo Nation. So like I said, the Navajo Nation program here started in 2016. And right now we do have 3 advocates, and we have 1 mobile advocate aide. We also have 1 Navajo Nation certified attorney. So we are very grateful that we do have an attorney that works directly with our clients. So we are able to provide those services for any victim-related need, any victim of a crime. So those individuals that need that assistance, they can call our hotline number, and we are able to assist them. And our legal attorney is able to provide services, whether it be court, maybe their protection order, custody issues. She is Navajo Nation barred, so she works directly with our clients. So part of our mobile advocacy program, we do provide the following services, like safety planning is a big thing that we do with our clients. We talk about the lethality assessment. We do the individual support and advocacy. We refer them to community resources. So not only here in Kansas, like I said, we have clients all over the Navajo Nation, to the city, Pinyon, Saline, Shiprock. So we do provide referrals to specifically in that community of what type of resources they're needing. And again, with our Navajo Nation legal services, if we have somebody in Chinle that is needing legal services, our attorney is able to assist them in that area. And we also had our support groups. So we provide our domestic violence, sexual assault support groups. Before COVID, we were meeting with our clients on Mondays, sexual assault support groups. And then on Wednesday, we would have our domestic violence support groups. And that was when we were transporting clients, and they would come to the office and we would have our support groups there. One of the big things that we provided was the transportation assistance. So a lot of our clients might need assistance with getting to one location to another for safety reasons. If they are trying to get out of a situation, they want to maybe enter a shelter in Phoenix, then we would help with setting up that transport. We also have our youth services. So one of the things that we do have in place is an MOU with Shanto Preparatory School. So before COVID too, I would go to the Shanto Preparatory School and meet with the students there that were on our youth program, and we would be able to provide the services for the teens there. We'll go over teen dating, abuse, and bullying. We would also provide support groups and individual sessions with them. So that's been a big help with us and providing those services to the youth there in Shanto. Okay, so since the pandemic happened, we did shift gears a little bit with our program here. So we began providing services virtually. And so we didn't stop providing services, we just kind of changed our tactic, and we really started working with our clients virtually. And surprisingly, we still had a maintained caseload. There's a lot of clients that still came to us and got on the program. We were still providing services. So as far as our virtual services, we still provided the things like safety planning, going over the lethality assessment, providing that advocacy and support. The legal services, we still provided that. Our attorney is still doing a lot of work with our clients, attending the court hearings virtually over the phone, We also have been coordinating transportations for our clients. So like I talked about with the relocations, if somebody is trying to get to a certain place for safety reasons, then we would look to programs that could help with that, or also work with third-party transportation services to help with providing that service for our clients. And then we also provide the respite childcare. So one of the things that we did in the office during our group sessions and even the one-on-one sessions, we would have our advocate aid with us, and they would provide that childcare on site while the advocate would meet with the client one-on-one. And now that we're virtual, we still provide that respite childcare if mom wants to just kind of take that time for herself. And we're able to kind of be on the line and keep the child busy. Let's do an activity together, and just kind of giving mom that break. And then we also are still providing the virtual support groups. We did expand a little bit on our support groups. So we have our domestic violence, sexual assault support groups every week. And we also have that in Navajo. So we have an advocate who provides the Navajo group sessions on Thursday evening. And then we also added a self-care group on Thursday evening. And that's been very helpful for our clients because of the pandemic and everything that the stresses that everybody carries. They're able to kind of take that time to take care of themselves, and they do some activities and stuff like that. So we've been having some really good responses on that. So one of the platforms that we use is Blue Jeans. So we do a lot of our support groups. We have meetings, one-on-one client meetings with our clients, so they can get on and we can see them face-to-face virtually. So that's been working well for us. So during this time too, we've been still assisting with essential hygiene kits for clients. So food, some face masks, hand sanitizer. We've been able to arrange those pickups for here in the area. We also have clients that might be in Phoenix, and if they are, they are still able to pick up needed essential items at our main office too. So that's been really helpful. And we also provide the virtual community outreach and presentations. So we may not be going face-to-face to certain places throughout the pandemic, but we were still providing outreach. We're still providing presentations through virtually. So that's what we've been doing. And also during the pandemic, we're still providing youth and teen services. And we are able to have clients that we have currently in the program, if they have their younger kids that are interested in receiving services, the parent or guardian all they would have to do is fill out and sign a permission slip, and that's located on our website. So some of the services that our youth and teen services provide is that support with our advocate, safety planning, identifying red flags, bullying, just providing resources and referrals for the youth, and then providing support groups. So like I said, if we have somebody interested in getting on the program with the youth program, they would go to our website and click on that teen section and submit that online permission slip. Try to make it very accessible and easier, so we don't have to have the actual parent or guardian doing the runarounds and submitting a permission slip. So they could do that right online. And if there's the youth that are 18 years or older, they would just call our hotline number and do a phone screen with our hotline team. So during while we're providing virtual services, like I had mentioned earlier, our Kayenta Navajo Nation attorney has been offering the legal representation for any victim-related need. So order of protection assistance, victim compensation assistance, and just helping with navigating the court process, providing that court support representation. So she's been a big help with our program. But I also wanted to mention that we do collaborate with a lot of our, like the individuals that spoke earlier, Alice's Place. We do collaborate with them. Shanto Preparatory School is one of our partners. Denahoto Chapter is also another one of our partners that we work with, and they would allow us to have office space there, so we could meet with clients in that area. And also the Utah Navajo Health System, another program partner that they allow us to use the office space for meeting clients at the Monument Valley Clinic, and of course the Totonache Shelter Home here too. So we collaborate with them as well as one of our community partners. So I've been grateful for all the partnerships that we've had during this time. And I would like to go ahead and hand it over to our CEO, Laura.
Thank you, Rebecca. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak. So during the pandemic, we've had some definite challenges as we've tried to move forward. Being a mobile program meant that we had to completely change how we think about and how we deliver service. So we had to completely restructure everything that we knew into something that was completely unknown. It was difficult to create safe interactions for clients and still get the items and support that they needed. And so we really began working on a series of third-party networking tools. I think Rebecca had mentioned earlier about using third-party transportation. So we now have a very vast and very robust network of third-party providers willing to travel and help relocate people from the Navajo Nation to any safe environment that they need to travel to. If and when we are able to go back to traveling, and then hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to take over some of that. But now we've developed this network. Now we have fewer limitations than we may have experienced in the past. And so that's been kind of one of those challenges that became kind of a positive for us. We had some building difficulties that required special treatments, cleaning and sanitizing, because we had nobody in the building. So we had critters move in that we didn't really invite. And so we've had to do some serious work on keeping our building in order and making sure that it is habitable when we decide to come back. We also had to create a shipping process. Rebecca mentioned about getting items to our clients for sanitizing and safety and basic food and shopping supplies. But it was also about getting therapeutic supplies to them so they could participate in those groups and do those self-care groups where it really is victim-centered, helping them kind of talk about and deal with trauma in very different and more kind of soothing types of ways. And so we've created another network of shipping opportunities. So we collect boxes and packing tape and packing supplies. And so not only are we really good at doing mobile service, but now we're really great at shipping. And so we've really tried to kind of create that opportunity for people to participate at whatever level that they can and to keep them engaged so that they don't feel alone. And in addition to the art supplies and self-care items and the group activities, we try to send children's activities. So when mom and dad are participating in our support groups, the kids also get a box and they have something that they can participate in as well and kind of keep themselves busy. In addition, if you can move the slides, Rebecca, we also created a process to set up and send technical-based equipment to clients to participate in services with our program services, with other programs, with the legal system, and with school. So that meant we needed to provide internet access to clients who didn't have it or a way to communicate online. We also needed to figure out a way to get that connected. And so we've looked at many different providers and we've created an opportunity for people to participate in various ways. She mentioned the respite process for parents who are trying to navigate while their kids are being stuck at home and needing attention and time as well. So some of the things that we look at as far as moving forward, our goal is relatively soon to return to a modified work schedule where staff will be back in the buildings and reconnecting with partners and doing some of those activities. Our goal is, though, to figure out a way to move forward from the pandemic in a safe and healthy environment, in a safe and healthy way, not only for our staff, but also for the clients that we serve. So some of the things that we're looking at as we move forward are ways to create a safer environment within our building. We're in a modular building, and so we have some space challenges. So it'd be great to be able to purchase and install some barriers and shields so that people can still come in and participate in services, but still have that safety net and being able to freely be in and about the area. Installing filters, being able to create that clean environment where people can breathe the air freely. For those who are vaccinated, being able to go without their masks if they choose. Having room dividers to create more space. We have large rooms that we can separate into smaller rooms if we had dividing ways to do that, so that we could create more opportunities for people to participate in different types of appointments. We're looking to do some weekly professional cleaning so that we can maintain our building in a much more professional manner. As I mentioned, we had some critters move in, and so we really want to stay on top of that so that we can maintain that critter-free environment and be able to move forward in a way that's more beneficial to everyone. We'd like to get a storage shed to allow for purchasing larger quantities of items. It's been very obvious to us that we need more space to store more items. During the pandemic, when it was difficult, to say the least, to get things, basic needs like wipes and paper towels and toilet paper and sanitizer and some of those things and face masks. We had them here, but we had a very difficult time figuring out how to get them to the Kayenta shelter or the Kayenta building, and to be able to keep them on site and make them available to individuals. And so a shed would help us kind of create that small storage area there so that we could actually be more responsive to the needs of the clients. And then being able to purchase things like cleaning supplies. We have a grant through the federal government through 2022 to provide direct services on the Navajo Nation. But that contract is very restrictive, and it doesn't allow us to really meet the true needs of every person that comes to our program. And so being able to provide them with cleaning supplies, being able to buy them for our own staff, being able to have access to funds for gift cards to buy food, because it's easier to mail a gift card for a grocery store that is in your local community than it is to try to arrange for a food box to be delivered or to find some kind of healthy option that may or may not be available. To be able to provide basic needs and to continue our mobile hotspot program. That's been a really important process during this virtual time. Is we've sent out probably 7 or 8 mobile hotspots, and now people can participate in school and they can go to court and they can do all kinds of things because now they have access to the internet, which is a vital tool, especially now. And then emergency funds for clients who need assistance with legal fees. As Rebecca mentioned, our legal attorney is staying quite busy. We don't get funding for things like process service or notice by publication. And those are integral needs when people are trying to escape violent relationships. Being able to provide childcare funds for clients to go to work or to attend appointments, to provide gas cards so they can go to court or they can go to appointments, to be able to shop. I mean, just being able to go to the grocery store is sometimes a challenge. And so being able to do that would be incredibly helpful. And then, kind of a breakdown of what we envision our budget to be is about $75,000 would allow us to really kind of shore up some of the gaps that we have in our current funding and to be able to bring and provide those other essential services and essential items to individuals so that they can live in a clean, virus-free environment and still get the support service that they need to address the victimization that's happened in their life and to be able to utilize the services so that they can move on and hopefully make some different progress. And with that, again, we are committed to staying in that community. We're very fortunate to have Rebecca and her staff. As for some of the other questions that were asked earlier, do we have plans for expansion? At this point in time, we have been kind of challenged to even become fully staffed. We currently have 5 positions in the Navajo Nation contract that we have, but we have 2 open positions. So we could expand up to 7 individuals, making time for a full-time youth and young adult advocate, as well as an additional aide to provide that support service like childcare and additional transports. We do work with law enforcement. We do a lot of work with prosecution and the court system. We did receive funding from DSS in our very first year of being on the reservation. However, it caused a little bit of a difficulty for some of our other partners that we were utilizing funds that they felt maybe could have been reassigned or reallocated to more local programs, because we are obviously housed out of the Phoenix location. And so we have chosen to reserve those funds for the local community agencies and nonprofits. And so we have not actively sought money from the Department of Social Services. And we've tried to maintain our services through our federal grant and through some other non-restrictive donations that we currently have. So with that, I think we've answered the questions, but we certainly are willing to entertain any questions that you may have, or if you need any additional information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I hate to ask, Ms. Laura, what is your last name again?
No problem. It's Horsley, Horsley.
Horsley. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Ms. Benali, too, for part of the presentation, and both of you all, and for Eve's Place commitment, and most importantly, accepting the invitation for the Naabik'íyáti committee. So with that, colleagues, is there any comments or questions at this time? If there are none, I just want to say thank you very much for both of your advocacy and a continuous effort to help the Navajo people, and making sure that through the pandemic, and then even on getting out of this pandemic, that there's places there and services to provide by your organization to help our families and our people through troubling times sometimes. I know that taking in on the proposal, thank you very much for putting that together, and that if there is further documents that we're going to be needing, I definitely know that Ms. Cheryl Nyazi will be reaching out to you, for a chief of staff of the Navajo Nation, or from the speaker's office, in order for that to happen. So again, I thank both of you for being here and being present before the Naabik'íyáti committee today. We greatly appreciate it. So have a good day.
Thank you.
Great. Moving on down, colleagues. I know that it's come. I really want to thank Mr. Bitsui for his comments and his presentation. Some new ideas from a construction point of view. Mr. Small Canyon and Dr. Begay on the council side. We look forward to the efforts of your presentations forthcoming. And then also Ms. Warden from Alice Place, and then Ms. Seward from Northland Family Health Center, and then Ms. Laura and Ms. Rebecca from Eve's Place Community Services. Thank you very much. And then last but not least, Mayor DZ and your community members, and the advocacy there on your behalf. We thank you all. We look forward to the presentations again from Ms. Seward, Ms. Warden, and both of the agency councils, so that we can definitely put those forth and make sure those are part of the record. So again, we thank you everyone for being on the line here today. We are following up, and these are just current presentations and that are being given to the Naabik'íyáti committee. If there are going to be actions on there, in moving forward with these recommendations. We will definitely have a follow-up and making sure that those recommendations are moved forward. And we'll probably have more paperwork that's going to probably need filled out and more one-on-one meetings. So again, thank you very much for everybody presenting before the Naabik'íyáti committee today. I know that at this time there's another RDC meeting that was crucial to be starting at 1 o'clock. So I know most, if not all my colleagues will probably jump on that call too as well. So again, thank everybody for being here with us today. The time now is 1:01 p.m. We are at announcements and a close of work session. There is just an RDC meeting this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Is there any other meetings? Is there an LFC meeting? You said?
Oh, at 4.
At 4? What is that one? Oh, and I think there's a 4 o'clock Law and Order Committee meeting too as well. Today, I don't believe that there's any meetings this weekend except for the Chin Lee Central Agency Council meeting that'll be happening tomorrow. We will be present at that meeting. So again, thank you everyone for being on the line. We'll go ahead and go back and
Speaker Damon,
some
this
of
is Delegate Cotty. May I ask a question?
advocacy collectively next week. I don't believe that there's any work sessions either on Monday or Tuesday. But I know we do have Navajo Nation Council the following week, but the Naabik'íyáti committee will have a regular session next Thursday. Oh, actually, we do have a work session. It'll be on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and that's on the ARPA work session. Some of the strategic issues and obstacles, opportunities, you name it, that we need to go ahead and look forward to try to hammer out and getting some of these things, this red tape taken care of. Then on the 15th is our regular Navajo Nation Naabik'íyáti committee special regular. Actually, there's a special session that we usually have before the Navajo Nation Council summer session. So with that, I think I heard Madam Chair Amber Crotty.
Yes, thank you, Speaker and colleagues. Speaker, so we're reviewing legislation 110-21 as it relates to the process for ARPA. Could you give me some guidance in terms of, is there going to be like a high-level summary or some type of discussion on this legislation while it goes through the committee, or it's a lot of different elements that are packaged into one legislation. So if you could give me guidance on how we're going to move forward. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the recommendation was to move forward, and we, as you know, taking the guidance from numerous different departments and different agencies, well, actually different departments and different divisions over the past 2 months, and trying to put that legislation together. I really want to thank Office of Legislative Counsel. They worked all the way into, we posted it at the very last minute last night. I think it was at 11:53 and finally got on the line in order to make it to a special Budget and Finance Committee meeting next Wednesday. But Madam Chair McCarty, what the presentation was is that if need be, it'd be going before the Budget and Finance Committee, working together on that. Once it goes from the Budget and Finance Committee, if there's any recommendations for it to have a special work session or something where there's a possibility for that schedule as early as next Friday, to have that and then put that before NABI on the 15th, and then have a special session to talk about it and talk about each one of those particular actions that are in there. As you know, it's a specific fund management plan for accepting the dollars and building that fund management plan. There are certain criteria that are in that, and most importantly, not only from the Treasury, but also all the recommendations from DOJ, OMB, Controller's Office, Office of the President, Vice President, Tax Office, Business Regulatory, Department of Economic Development, Office of Legislative Councils from our office, and then even from the Budget and Finance Committee, and then also from the sponsor, who in this case is Honorable Carl Slater, Vice Chair Slater. So that's the route that it's going to take, the path and moving forward, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Speaker, for that explanation, and we look forward to hearing the legislation at Budget and Finance Committee. Thank you.
Okay. And then also, Madam Chair, if there's a time frame that needs to be done too, I think we can work together somewhat. I know it's critical in order for the budget and finance to take that into consideration, especially the fact that there's numerous things, particularly the delegation, creating the documents and establishing the documents that the Budget Finance Committee is going to have to uptake. And that's something that's critical for your committee to, I guess, work on over the next couple of weeks after the legislation would be enacted. So we'll have a discussion, good discussion at Budget and Finance Committee, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
All right. That colleagues, it's 1:07 p.m. I know a number of you were asking to be on the NHA call with the Resource and Development Committee. I do believe that started now. So again, thank you everyone for being on the call here with us today. Thank you everyone for not only my colleagues, but all the presenters for taking the time out and accepting the invitation. So have a good day, have a good weekend, and please stay safe out there. And it's a good blessing here in Window Rock. We're getting some more rain as we speak. So yeah, safe travels, everyone. Go on.